Hi, everyone. Welcome to Body Swapping Stories YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get notifications when new videos come out. Let us know in the comments what you think of this story. Enjoy! If you liked this story, please consider joining the community as a member. You can enjoy things such as shorts, early access, voting rights, video requests, and more. Click on the join button below. Thank you all for listening. Have you ever wished you could understand what your spouse is really going through? Have you ever been so frustrated with your marriage that you try anything to save it? What would you do if you suddenly found yourself living in your wife's body, experiencing her life firsthand? 3 days ago, my wife Gina and I were at each other's throats. After 18 years of marriage, we'd fallen into a pattern of constant bickering and resentment. Our kids were away at university, and without them as a buffer, we were forced to confront how distant we'd become. The fighting had escalated over the past few months. Small irritations grew into major arguments. The way she loaded the dishwasher, the way I left my shoes in the hallway, how she spent too much time on her phone, how I worked too late at the shop, everything became ammunition. "You don't listen to me, Nick. You never have," Gina had shouted during our last major fight. "You have no idea what my life is like. And you think you know mine? You think running a shop is just playing around all day while you lounge around the house?" She'd thrown a dish towel at me then, not violently, but in frustration. I'd stormed out, spent the night driving around, wondering how we'd reached this point. We'd been college sweethearts, best friends who could talk about anything. Now we could barely speak without arguing. When I returned home the next morning, Gina was sitting at the kitchen table, red-eyed from crying, or lack of sleep, probably both. "We need help," she'd said simply. I nodded. For all our problems, neither of us wanted a divorce. We still loved each other. We just couldn't seem to connect anymore. That argument had led us to a marriage counselor, our last-ditch attempt at saving a marriage neither of us was quite ready to give up on. She was unconventional, to say the least. Her office looked more like a mystic's parlor than a therapist's room, with strange artifacts on the shelves and incense burning in the corner. But she came highly recommended by a couple we knew who'd been on the brink of divorce before seeing her. When she asked if we were willing to truly walk in each other's shoes, we'd both said yes without hesitation. What did we have to lose? "Close your eyes," the counselor had instructed. "Breathe deeply and listen to my voice." I remember feeling relaxed, then dizzy, then nothing at all. When I woke up, I was sitting in Gina's chair. Except I wasn't just sitting where she had been, I was inside her body. I looked down to see her floral blouse, her slender hands with the wedding ring that matched mine. Across from me, my body stared back with Gina's panicked expression. "What the hell?" My voice came out higher, softer, Gina's voice. The counselor remained perfectly calm. "The swap will last approximately 3 weeks. Consider it immersive therapy. You'll each experience life as the other. No shortcuts, no cheating. When you return to me after 3 weeks, we'll discuss what you've learned." She refused to explain how she'd done it or answer any of our frantic questions. The how isn't important. The experience is what matters. I suggest you use this time wisely. The drive home was silent and tense. Gina, in my body, drove my car while I sat in the passenger seat, trying not to hyperventilate. "This is impossible," I finally said. "Clearly not," Gina replied with my voice, which was deeply unsettling, since we're currently living the impossible. We agreed that we had no choice but to play our roles until this ended. Gina would run my shop. She knew enough about the business to get by. I would take over her domestic duties. How hard could housework be, after all? That first night was the most awkward experience of my life. We avoided each other as much as possible in our own home. When it came time for bed, we both hesitated. "I'll sleep in the guest room," Gina finally said. I nodded, relieved. Neither of us was ready to confront the intimate aspects of this situation. Alone in our bedroom, I was finally forced to confront the reality of my situation. I needed to change clothes. I opened Gina's dresser drawers, finding her neatly organized underwear and pajamas. I selected the most modest options, plain cotton briefs and a baggy t-shirt, and then faced the mirror. With trembling hands, I began to undress. Each button of Gina's blouse felt like a transgression. When I finally stood there in just her bra and underwear, I couldn't help but stare. This was my wife's body, a body I knew intimately as her husband, but experiencing it from the inside was entirely different. I reached behind to unhook her bra, struggling with the clasps. When it finally came loose, I let it fall, revealing her breasts. I'd always appreciated Gina's figure, but now I was seeing it from a completely new perspective. With a deep breath, I slid off her skirt and her panties as well, now standing completely naked before the mirror. The surprising vacancy in my lower department was perhaps the most shocking change of all. Where my male equipment had been was now smooth, feminine anatomy that I had only seen from the other perspective. I was completely female, down to the last detail. After a moment of stunned examination, I quickly pulled the t-shirt on, feeling suddenly vulnerable. "I'm a woman," I said aloud, testing the words in my new voice. "I'm Gina." The next morning brought the awkward necessity of showering. I couldn't exactly go 3 weeks without bathing. I stepped into the shower stall, keeping my eyes averted from Gina's body as much as possible. But washing required touching, and I couldn't help noticing how different everything felt. The weight of breasts, the absence in my personal region, the curves where I'd once had angles. It all added up to a much more involved routine than my usual 5-minute scrub. The shampoo smelled like strawberries, Gina's preferred scent. The body wash left her skin, my skin now, feeling soft and moisturized in a way mine never did. Even the simple act of shaving my legs, which Gina did regularly, was a complex new skill to master. What really caught me off guard were the sensations. The hot water streaming over Gina's body created feelings I wasn't prepared for. When the spray hit certain areas, particularly the checkout scanners on my chest, I felt jolts of pleasure that made me gasp. The water pressure against the underwear shopping aisle down under was even more surprising. I quickly redirected the shower head, not ready to explore those reactions further. After the shower, I wrapped a towel around my chest rather than my waist. The motion came naturally, somehow. I dried her long hair, applied the mysterious array of lotions and creams Gina used daily, and then faced her closet. I found a hairdryer in one of the vanity drawers and attempted to dry my new, much longer hair. It was an awkward process, holding the dryer with one hand while trying to manage the hair with the other. By the time I finished, my arms were tired, and the result was far from the sleek styles I'd seen in Gina's photos. Still, it was dry, which seemed like a reasonable accomplishment for now. Next came skincare, another totally foreign concept to me. Gina's bathroom counter held dozens of products in elegant bottles and jars. Cleansers, toners, serums, moisturizers. I had no idea what order to use them in or what they were supposed to do. After some hesitation, I applied what looked like a basic moisturizer, surprised by how quickly it absorbed into my skin. Choosing clothes was unexpectedly challenging. Bras had different purposes, apparently. Sports bras for comfort, underwire for support, something called a balconette for Well, I wasn't sure what. I opted for what looked simplest. The rest of the outfit was equally perplexing. How did all these pieces coordinate? I eventually settled on jeans and a simple blouse, something I'd seen Gina wear many times. That first week was a crash course in Gina's daily life. I'd always assumed that managing the house was simple compared to running my shop. I quickly discovered how wrong I'd been. The constant cycle of laundry, cleaning, meal planning, and shopping required more organization and effort than I'd appreciated. By the third day, I had a new respect for Gina's efficiency. When she gave me her detailed schedule and shopping lists, I nearly broke down in gratitude for the guidance. Grocery shopping as a woman was an eye-opener. The way men looked at me, the unsolicited comments, the constant awareness of my surroundings, these were things I'd never had to consider as a man. I found myself texting Gina for advice more than I'd anticipated. "How do you deal with the guy at the deli counter who won't stop staring at my chest?" I texted. "Welcome to my world," she replied. "Just get what you need and move on. Not worth the confrontation." On my third shopping trip, I encountered a particularly persistent man in the produce section who kept accidentally bumping into me. After the third time, I turned and fixed him with a glare that would have made Gina proud. "Do you need something?" I asked, channeling all my frustration into my tone. He backed off immediately, muttering an apology. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and unease. This was Gina's daily reality, constantly navigating unwanted attention while just trying to complete basic tasks. By the end of the first week, I'd settled into a routine of sorts. The housework was manageable once I understood the systems Gina had in place. The physical aspects of being female were still jarring, but less shocking than initially. What I wasn't prepared for were the sensations. Gina's body responded to stimuli differently than mine. Simple things: the brush of fabric against skin, the warm water of the shower. Even certain scents created reactions I wasn't used to managing. After a particularly long day of cleaning, I sank into a hot bath, allowing myself to fully relax for the first time since the swap. As I absently ran the washcloth over Gina's body, I felt unexpected responses in areas I'd been carefully avoiding.
Look, I don't want to get too explicit about what happened next, so I'm going to use grocery shopping terms for certain things, but you know what I mean. Let's just say I was about to explore some aisles I'd only ever visited as a customer, not as the store manager. The premium produce section tingled with awareness, the specialty shopping aisle down under responding with surprising intensity. I'd been fighting these urges all week, feeling like it would be a violation of Gina's privacy. But alone in the bathroom, with tension I couldn't ignore, my curiosity and need finally won out. I hesitantly allowed my hands to explore the gourmet department, discovering how different the shopping experience was from this side of the transaction. The checkout scanners were surprisingly sensitive, responding immediately to the lightest touch. When I finally found the store's customer service button, the results were revelatory. I experimented with different shopping strategies, slow, methodical browsing versus quick direct routes. I discovered that the produce department responded best to gentle circular motions, while the specialty aisle required more focused attention. It was like learning a completely new shopping layout after years of visiting the same store. The express checkout that followed was nothing like my experiences as a man. Instead of a single flash of satisfaction, this was waves of pleasure rolling through the entire shopping complex. I found myself gasping, my back arching involuntarily as the premium membership rewards program delivered multiple loyalty bonuses in succession. Where male pleasure had always been a straightforward transaction, building steadily to a single purchase, female pleasure was more like a complex shopping spree, with multiple departments offering different types of satisfaction simultaneously. No wonder we'd have communication issues in the bedroom. We'd been operating on completely different retail models. Afterward, I lay in the cooling water, processing what had just happened. The female shopping experience was entirely different, more encompassing, more prolonged, more varied in intensity. No wonder Gina had always insisted we browse every aisle when we shop together. I felt a mix of guilt and fascination. Should I have resisted? Was this crossing a line in our strange situation? But then Gina was living in my body. Surely she was experiencing her own revelations. The second week brought a shift in our dynamic. The initial awkwardness began to fade as we each adapted to our roles. Gina reported that the shop was running smoothly. I'd mastered most of the household routines. We even managed to eat dinner together, sharing insights about our experiences. I never realized how many decisions you make in a day at the shop. It's exhausting in a completely different way than housework. And I never appreciated how much planning goes into maintaining our home. The mental load is constant. We were connecting in a way we hadn't in years, truly understanding each other's daily lives for the first time. This understanding led to something unexpected: attraction. Seeing Gina navigate my body with increasing confidence was strangely appealing, and I noticed her watching me with new interest as well. My daily solo shopping trips had become a guilty pleasure. Each expedition taught me more about Gina's body, what the store layout preferred, which departments responded best to different browsing techniques. I began to understand why certain shopping strategies that had worked in my body didn't satisfy Gina. We'd been speaking entirely different retail languages. By the time we reached the 2-week mark, a significant shift had occurred. I no longer felt like a man trapped in my wife's body. I felt like myself, experiencing life through a different lens. And with that acceptance came a desire to fully embrace the situation. That morning, after Gina left for the shop, I made a decision. Instead of the comfortable but plain clothing I'd been favoring, I opened the section of Gina's closet I'd been avoiding, where she kept her more feminine, revealing outfits. Behind those, in a drawer I'd pretended not to know about, was her collection of lingerie. I selected a turquoise lace ensemble I'd given her last anniversary, which she'd never worn. Or so I'd thought. The fabric was delicate, the construction designed specifically to highlight certain assets. I spent extra time on hair and makeup, following tutorials I'd secretly watched while Gina was at work. Getting into the lingerie was a challenge. The bra had complex strapping that took several attempts to figure out. The matching panties were surprisingly comfortable, though the garter belt and stockings required careful attention to detail. I studied myself in the full-length mirror, amazed at the transformation. Gina's body looked stunning in the delicate blue lace. I understood now why I'd always loved seeing her in lingerie. The visual impact was undeniable. I spent the day in anticipation, tidying the house and preparing dinner while wearing the lingerie under a silk robe. Every movement reminded me of what was underneath, creating a constant low-level arousal that was both distracting and exciting. By the time I heard Gina's key in the lock, I was practically vibrating with nervous energy. When I heard her come home that evening, I was ready. "Honey, I'm home!" Gina yelled out in a tired voice as she entered our house. "I am in the bedroom," I replied, my heart racing with nervous anticipation. "Could you come here for a moment?" Gina sighed. "Do I have to? I'm pretty tired right now. Your job is really stressful. I'd rather plop down on the couch, put my feet up, and watch some TV. Please," I whined, surprising myself with how naturally Gina's mannerisms were coming to me. I could really use your help with something." "Fine," Gina groaned and went up the stairs. "Are you still having problems with putting on my bra? It's really time for you to learn this. You are inside my body for 2 weeks already." She finally reached the bedroom, and when she opened the door, she gasped. What's going on here? Like what you see? I asked with a sly smile on my face. Yeah, but why? Well, I figure it's time that I finally accept the situation. We are going to be in each other's bodies for some time, and this therapy isn't cheap. So until we swap back, I'm going to embrace my current role. I cleaned the house, the dinner is prepared, but before we get to that, I think it's time to bring back some action into our love life. Oh, I like the sound of it. Good, I purred as I lasciviously walked towards my wife and my body. Unless you're too tired. What? No, I'm wide awake all of a sudden. That's nice to hear, I said as I began opening my wife's pants.
The experience that followed was eye-opening for both of us. Each of us knew exactly what our original bodies enjoyed, but we were experiencing those sensations from the opposite perspective. Gina knew precisely how to navigate the specialty shopping aisles of her body, while I understood the exact inventory management techniques my body responded to. Our shopping expedition extended well into the night, with multiple visits to the premium shopping district and the bulk goods department. By the time we collapsed in exhaustion, something fundamental had shifted in our relationship. The third week of our swap brought a level of intimacy and understanding we hadn't experienced in years. We continued to fulfill each other's responsibilities, but with a new appreciation for the challenges involved. Our evening shopping trips became regular events, each of us discovering new aspects of physical pleasure from our reversed perspectives. We found ourselves talking more openly than we had in years. After one particularly satisfying shopping expedition, we lay tangled together discussing the differences in how our bodies experienced pleasure. I had no idea the female shopping experience was so complex, I admitted. So many departments need attention simultaneously. Gina laughed, and I never realized how straightforward the male shopping experience is. It's like the difference between a convenience store and a shopping mall. Why didn't we ever talk about this before? I asked. She shrugged. How could we? Without experiencing it, we could only describe it in ways that made sense to us. You couldn't have understood what multiple shopping experiences felt like any more than I could have understood the direct focus of male shopping. She was right. All the communication skills in the world couldn't have given us the understanding we now had. I found myself looking forward to the specialty shopping experiences unique to Gina's body. The multiple department satisfaction surveys, the full store inventory reviews that left me trembling. These were shopping benefits I'd never have understood from my original perspective. When the counselor finally reversed the swap at the end of 3 weeks, returning us to our original bodies, Gina and I had already agreed to continue the arrangement periodically. The swap seems to have been beneficial, she observed with a knowing smile. Would you say your perspective has changed? Completely, we answered in unison. She nodded, satisfied. Many couples never truly understand each other's experiences. You've been given a rare gift, complete empathy. Use it wisely. As we left her office in our original bodies, I felt strangely disoriented. My own body felt both familiar and foreign, like returning to a childhood home after years away. I kept reaching for hair that was no longer there, adjusting for breasts that had disappeared. It's weird, isn't it? Gina said as we drove home. I keep forgetting to sit differently. I miss certain aspects of your body, not just the shopping opportunities, but the way people smiled at you, the feeling of your hair when the wind blew through it. She reached across the car to squeeze my hand. I miss things about yours too. The strength, the way doors seemed lighter, not having to worry about walking alone at night. We looked at each other and burst into laughter. Not at the situation, but at the sheer impossibility of explaining this to anyone else. It was our secret, our shared experience. That was 6 months ago. Since then, we've maintained our agreement. Every 2 weeks, we visit the counselor for another swap. The time in between is filled with anticipation rather than dread, connection rather than distance. Today marks 2 weeks since our last switch, and in just a few hours, I'll be back in Gina's body. I've already planned a special surprise, a new premium shopping ensemble I found online, guaranteed to provide an enhanced customer experience. Gina won't know what hit her when she comes home to find me waiting on the bed in... Well, I suppose you'll have to use your imagination for that part. Sometimes the best therapy doesn't come from talking about your problems, but from truly experiencing another perspective. In our case, it quite literally saved our marriage, one body swap at a time.